Part 4. I was stunned. I was about to ask what she meant, but suddenly Jason's mother came running out, a broom in her hand, swinging it at the woman. As she struck, she cursed, "You shameless hussy! Coming to our house to make trouble. Get out! Get out of here right now!" I was terrified. Jason appeared from somewhere and pulled me into the house. Shortly after, Jason's mother came in, and she apologized to me. I looked at Jason in confusion. Why did she tell me to run away? Jason sighed helplessly. Because her mind isn't right. She got divorced, lost her husband and child. So, whenever she sees people with good relationships, she loses it. Rachel, you don't believe the ravings of a crazy woman, do you? I shook my head. When can I go home? I desperately wanted to leave now. I couldn't wait another moment. Jason quickly assured me, "Rachel, I promise. As soon as the bridge is fixed, I'll send you back immediately." Both of Jason's parents agreed with him. The next day, Jason took me to see the bridge. Sure enough, it had been torn down. If we were to cross to the other side, it would normally take 5 minutes with the bridge. Without it, crossing was impossible. Looking at this sight, I felt increasingly troubled. From that day on, I would go to the bridge every day after eating to check on the repair progress, as if that would somehow comfort me. During this time, I also became friendly with a few children in the village. I gave them snacks they had never seen before, along with pretty notebooks and mechanical pencils. They told me interesting stories about the village. The days seemed to be passing in relative peace. I silently wondered when some progress would finally come. Then one day, I drew Q-version caricatures for several children and made them into small cards using glue. The children were thrilled to have these exclusive personal items. That evening, while I was writing in my room, I heard Jason arguing with his family. "I told you from the beginning that I don't like children, but you two insisted on raising him anyway. And look at what he's become now. That brat does nothing but annoy me every single day. I'm sick of it, you hear me? Son, he's your own flesh and blood. He's the only hope of our family." Only hope? What good is that? Nothing beats money. Now that I've finally got Rachel here, if this little bastard ruins my plans, I'll sell him right away. That's not acceptable. Kyle is already 9 years old. How can we sell him? 9 years old? So what? The worst I can do is break one of his legs, make him deaf and dumb, and sell him to someone as a beggar. Both of Jason's parents were crying in distress. Jason lowered his voice. "All you two do is cry, cry, cry. Do you have any idea how hard I work to make money? You two eat and drink from what I earn, and you can't even help me with anything. If anyone should be crying, it's me." Soon after the argument ended, Jason came to my room. At that moment, I was wearing earbuds, dancing and swaying along to music from my laptop. Jason called me several times, but I didn't hear him. Only when he came over and removed my earbuds did I turn and look at him in surprise. "Oh, you're back." Jason smiled. "What have you been doing with the village children? I've heard all about it." I smiled. "Nothing much, just some little cards. What's the matter?" Jason's expression was already impatient, but he still tried to put on a gentle face. "In the future, don't get too close to them. I'm worried these kids won't know when to be satisfied. They'll want everything from you once they realize you're nice to them." I smiled. "Okay, I'll listen to whatever you say." Watching the impatience in Jason's expression, I could guess why he had rushed out earlier and come back to argue with his parents. No matter what, Kyle was still a child. When he saw me giving chocolate and milk candy to other children, he might not have been envious. But when he saw that I gave other children exclusive items, how could he not feel jealous? Once he was unhappy about it, he would cry and complain to Jason, and of course Jason would become impatient. I comforted Jason. "Don't worry, I'll listen to you." As I spoke, I patted his shoulder. Jason looked at me very emotionally. "Rachel, only you are kind to me." I smiled and concealed the coldness in my eyes. A few days later, there was a celebration in the village, a young couple's child's 1-month birthday party. There were dozens of tables set up with alcohol. Jason came home drunk. His mother deliberately asked me to take care of him. Once I entered the room, I heard the sound of the door locking from outside. The next morning, after breakfast, Jason's mother handed me a large gold bracelet and said kindly, "Rachel, Andy knows our family is poor, but all of us love you very much. I heard you spent the night in the same room with Jason yesterday. I'm so happy about this. Please take this bracelet." Looking at the heavy gold bracelet around my wrist, I knew Jason's mother must have assumed something had happened between Jason and me. And she was right. A man and woman alone in one room with alcohol to fuel things. How could nothing happen? I quietly accepted the bracelet and pretended to be shy. "I'm still young and haven't thought about marriage yet. Let's talk about it after I graduate." Seeing my bashful expression, Jason's mother assumed I had agreed. She praised me profusely. From that day on, Jason's mother began following me around. Sometimes she and Jason's father would take turns. They didn't dare restrict my movements, so this was the best they could do. I knew that in the eyes of Jason's family, I was now nothing more than a walking incubator. More than half a month passed. The bridge still wasn't fixed, but I began vomiting frequently. Jason's mother took me to the village clinic to get checked, and the doctor confirmed I was pregnant. The Jiang family was overjoyed. I looked depressed. I told them that I was still a student and absolutely didn't want to be pregnant. Jason kept persuading me, even kneeling down in front of me, begging me to have the child. Jason's parents were incredibly kind to me, to the point where they were practically worshiping me. I eventually agreed. Jason then told me that it was best not to go home before giving birth. I should focus on a healthy pregnancy. I agreed to that as well. Seeing that I was being so cooperative, the Jiang family was thrilled. That night, I woke up screaming from a nightmare. Jason rushed to my room, looking worried. "Rachel, are you okay?" I wiped the cold sweat from my face, speaking fearfully. "Jason, I dreamed that the baby was gone. The baby told me that he didn't want to come into this family because it was so fractured and unstable, and he didn't feel any warmth, so he decided not to come." As I spoke, I cried uncontrollably. "Jason, please bring Kyle back home. I'm so scared." Jason was silent for a long moment before finally responding. "Okay, don't be afraid. I'll bring Kyle back tomorrow." I nestled into Jason's embrace, a satisfied smile on my lips. The next day, Kyle returned. I could tell that Jason wasn't happy about it, but his parents seemed very pleased. I sat on a reclining chair in the courtyard, enjoying the sunshine. Kyle curiously walked over and stared at my stomach. I smiled at him. "Kyle, hello. You can call me sister-in-law." Kyle glanced at me, then pointed at my belly. "Why isn't your stomach bigger?" I smiled. "Because it's not even 3 months yet, so it's not showing." "Kyle, do you think the baby in my stomach is a boy or a girl?" Kyle blinked, then suddenly smiled mischievously. A girl. He looked at me expectantly, clearly hoping I'd be disappointed. But I laughed. Little kids can't be trusted. You have to hear the opposite of what they say. You said it's a girl, so it must be a boy. Kyle hadn't expected me to respond that way. He looked flustered. What a silly child. I smiled and gently touched my stomach. Looks like I'm going to have a boy. Kyle clenched his fists in frustration and glared at me. When I saw Jason coming back from outside, I instinctively put my hands protectively over my stomach and spoke fearfully. Kyle, what are you trying to do? Jason had just walked in and heard my words. Seeing Kyle's fists clenched and staring at me, he rushed forward and kicked Kyle. Kyle started crying loudly. Jason dragged him away by the collar. I quietly walked to the doorway and heard Jason beating Kyle while saying, "You better behave, or I'll sell you to pig farmers just like all those other girls, and they'll eat you up." Kyle was so scared, he didn't dare make another sound. From then on, Kyle was extremely obedient, and I was nice to him, making many foods he had never eaten before. Although Kyle was rotten to the core, he was still just a child, and ultimately, I had deceived him completely. Every day, he followed me around like a little tail, begging me to make this dish or that. I was more than happy to oblige. One day, after I made Kyle his favorite beef pizza and watched him eat happily, I deliberately touched my stomach and said, "When my baby is born, I'll make these delicious foods for him too." Hearing my words, Kyle became angry and looked at me. No way. I looked at him curiously. Why not? Little brother can share the delicious food with you when he's born. Your older brother will love him too. He's my child after all. The more Kyle heard, the angrier he became. He directly threw the pizza on the ground and pushed everything off the table in frustration, then stomped on it all to vent his rage. I sat there, calmly watching Kyle. I knew that at this moment, he must be terrified. After all, I had been spoiling him, constantly making him things, always having new and interesting stories to tell him. If he realized that a new person was coming to take away all these wonderful things, how could he not be frightened? Just then, Jason came home. The moment he walked in and saw the mess, he grabbed Kyle and started hitting him. I pretended to be innocent. I thought I was being so nice to little Hai, making him all these things while I'm pregnant. Why does he still have such a terrible temper? Hearing my words, Jason became even angrier. He pulled off his belt and whipped Kyle until the boy's cries became hoarse. I sat in a chair, calmly sipping water and watching. This wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. From that point on, Kyle was confined to bed. Well, not exactly confined. He had been beaten so badly that his buttocks were split open and he couldn't walk. Jason didn't bother with him, but his parents kept going in to care for him. I could tell that Jason wasn't in a good mood lately, so I frequently encouraged him to drink, offering comfort through alcohol, getting him drunk time and time again. Jason's parents were too busy taking care of Kyle to worry about me. I had more and more opportunities to access Jason's computer. One day, I had just returned from the bridge, and Jason had sobered up. He suddenly became serious and interrogated me about where I had gone. I shrugged. I just took a walk by the bridge. What's wrong? Jason finally relaxed. Rachel, you're pregnant now. You absolutely cannot go wandering around. I nodded. A few days later, Kyle's injuries healed, and he could get up again. By this time, my stomach was also beginning to show a slight bump. I frequently touched my stomach and watched Kyle, telling him that once my child was born, his status in this family would be demoted. Kyle often glared hatefully at my stomach. The meaner his eyes became, the more I anticipated what was to come. Until one day, I was taking an afternoon nap when Kyle quietly approached me. He thought this was the perfect opportunity. Jason was out, and his grandparents were also napping. All he had to do was kick my stomach once, and everything would be solved. But this was all part of my plan. I had asked Jason to go buy something for me, but I deliberately left his phone behind. Halfway there, Jason realized he didn't have his phone and rushed back home. The moment he opened the door, he saw Kyle headfirst charging toward my stomach. Jason was startled. He rushed forward, pushed Kyle away, and protectively shielded me. "You little bastard. Are you crazy?" Jason roared at Kyle. Jason's parents also heard the commotion and hurried out. Kyle still wasn't repentant. He yelled loudly, "I don't want her to have a little brother. This family can only have me." Before Kyle could say anything else, Jason quickly covered his mouth and dragged him back inside. Soon, sounds of screaming and crying came from the room. A few days later, Jason told me that the bridge had been repaired and he would be sending Kyle out to school. A child this size couldn't go without education, or he'd be ruined. I nodded in agreement, saying I would wait for him to come back home. 2 days later, police surrounded the entire village. Detective Morgan came to take me away. Jason's parents still refused to admit to their involvement in their son's human trafficking ring, not until I pulled out my fake pregnancy belly. Only then did they become stunned. I smiled. All the evidence is on Jason's computer. I've already copied the data and sent it out. This time, Jason was planning to sell Kyle because he couldn't stand this troublesome child. I had informed Detective Morgan of his plan in advance. Detective Morgan and his team caught them red-handed. Jason had no way to deny it. My pregnancy belly was also part of the plan. 2 years ago, my sister, who had been missing for a year, suddenly came back home. At that time, my sister was in her sophomore year of college. She said she had fallen in love and wanted to do an internship. She said it would take about a year or more. More than a year later, my sister returned completely changed. She looked weathered and haggard. The whole family was very worried about her, but she wouldn't say anything. Her studies came to a halt. This girl, who should have had a bright future, just faded away. Half a year later, my sister was diagnosed with depression and started hiding in her room, refusing to go outside. I didn't know how to help my sister. Eventually, I met an old police officer named Detective Ray Morgan. He told me that his sister had experienced something similar to what happened to my sister. But his sister, Amber Morgan, couldn't endure it. She jumped from a building and killed herself. Detective Morgan had been pursuing this case. Through his investigation, he had roughly identified the suspect, a man named Jason. He specialized in deceiving young female college students, taking them home, forcing them to get pregnant, and having them give birth to children. Then he would force the women to leave so he could sell the children. If the women refused, he would expose these incidents to their schools. All his victims were female college students. They were timid, inexperienced, and naturally terrified of such a threat. They were all on the verge of entering society, with no experience at all. When Jason threatened them, they naturally chose to bury this experience completely. But the psychological trauma that this incident inflicted on them was extremely difficult to heal. Even the crazy woman in the village had her child stolen and sold by Jason. Once I learned all this, I unhesitatingly agreed to help Detective Morgan as the bait. I would go to the bridge to pass along messages, pretending that something had happened between me and Jason. Then I took drugs in advance to fake a pregnancy, successfully luring the snake out of its hole so the police could catch Jason red-handed. After I finished giving my statement, I walked out of the interrogation room and happened to see Kyle. He was sitting there and Detective Morgan was saying something to him. Suddenly, Kyle kicked Detective Morgan in the stomach. Detective Morgan wasn't prepared and fell to the ground. I quickly rushed forward to help Detective Morgan up, then turned and glared at Kyle. "He's your uncle. Do you understand what you're doing?" That's right. The boy that Morgan's sister Amber had given birth to in that village years ago was the now-grown Kyle.
Kyle scoffed.
"I don't have an uncle. I only have a dad and grandpa and grandma." "You bad woman. Give me back my dad." Kyle said this and then rushed at me. I held his shoulders down and didn't let him get close. I glared at him. "Your dad lied to so many people. He lied to your mother. He wouldn't let her take you away. He caused your biological mother to jump off a building. Do you think your dad really loves you? If he loved you, would he plan to sell you?" Listening to my words, for a moment, a flicker of doubt passed across Kyle's childish face. But then his mouth puffed up, and he spit directly at me. "My dad would never sell me. When I grow up, I'll inherit my dad's business and deal with bad women like you. You're all bad people." I was stunned. I stared at Kyle in disbelief. This 9-year-old child had actually said such a thing. 2 police officers forcibly took Kyle away. Detective Morgan walked me out of the police station. I originally planned to adopt him, since he is my sister's biological son. But now it seems like everything is already set in stone. I looked at Detective Morgan. "If I hadn't witnessed it myself, I probably would have tried to convince you that he's still just a child. But now I don't dare say that, because I saw with my own eyes." I saw him thrown into a fit of rage over a possible new life, wanting to kick the child to death. I saw him go absolutely crazy just moments ago. What kind of person would he become if he was actually raised? I had no way of knowing. Later, I returned home. I told my parents that my internship had gone well, though I decided I wouldn't be working away from home. I wanted to find work closer to home. My parents were very happy. I went to my sister's room. My sister was sitting on the window seat, looking out at the scenery outside. I sat beside her and took her hand. "Sister, Jason has been arrested. The bad people are all locked up. There won't be any more bad people from now on." My sister, who had been expressionless, suddenly turned and looked at me. I saw tears streaming down her face. "Sister?" I choked out. My sister suddenly pulled me into an embrace and cried.